during the 30s?
We moved to Plain City in the 20s, and we stayed out until after the 40s. 41, I went into service, and best I remember, they had two tracks at Plain City. They had a track in the early 30s and somewhere in the 40s. Now, I don't know, it'd be up to you to check and see if I'm right. But we had one in the 30s, I won't remember what year, but it got very bad. And most of the people that were on come out that were working against the textile workers was people that were not related, were not with the mill, maybe 4 or 5, and the rest of them was people from different parts of the South or North and wherever they could get a bunch of people to come in to help them to be with the strikers. And I was somewhere around 13 when we had a first strike, maybe 14. And they got very naughty. They fought the people. They threatened to burn them down. They threatened to take over the mill. They gave a right about 100 yards from where I'm living now, down here in a big open field.
And from here?
Yes, from right here.
What was the Payne Mill down the street from here?
Payne Mill right over here to my left.
It is. Can we see it from your house?
No, you can't see it because of a bunch of wood. I can show it to you. But right in the field bottom down here at a big open field. And they gathered down there one morning and threatened to take over the mill, and were hundreds and hundreds of them. And it took the sheriff's department for hours with tear gas to break it up. And we were having to throw rocks at the people on the village. They would come in on the village and break windows, throw rocks, threaten, and were very ugly. My family never did come out on the strike. My daddy was making $16 a week, and he was feeding the family. And we never did go hungry. We never did go barefooted. We never did get cold. And they live as good as people because the mill was good to the people that were living with it. At that time, they would give them the rent for about $1 a week, water, lights, and whatever. And it kept the house up in #1 condition. There wasn't no fancy motels like they have today, but they were real nice to live in. They were comfortable. They wasn't modern like they are today, but they were just real nice houses. I'll show them to you in a little while. Drive you through there and show it to you. The Bill Mill sold out to the homeowners somewhere in the 60s, and the houses now are owned by individuals instead of being a company, owned by individuals. And the track, just like I say, it got very ugly. We had people come in and try to turn over people's cars, and they wouldn't let Coca-Cola trucks go in the village mill. They wouldn't let the people, the grown people, were afraid to leave the village by themselves. But by being kids, we felt like we could go in where we want to without getting in trouble. But I remember one time when it took about 75 to 80 people to get one car in the mill gate, because people had gathered up and got on it and tried and turn it over, and he just kept moving enough till they got in. And some of the thing that I remember, it didn't last but about 2 months. And one night, they were going to have somewhere around 1,000 people to come in on the backside of the mill and from the railroad. And they got able-bodied person that they could, and with shotguns and any kind of gun that they could get to be inside the mill village to protect it. And at 12 o'clock they were supposed to climb a fence, and we were told not to let them climb a fence. When they come over the fence and come inside to coming toward us to fire the gun, most of the kids were around 15, 16 years old.
Were you
But
with them?
I was with them, but we never did have to fire. They never did. I don't know if they looked at us and saw we was kids and just didn't want to come in on us. But nobody didn't come in. And that was the worst threatening night that they had. And it lasted for several weeks.
Did you go to school during that time?
We went to school, didn't miss a day. And we had, at that time, they wouldn't let nobody come in the village to put out papers or anything. And we had several threats. People want to come in and drop papers and do things like that, you know, trying to advertise the union. And but they didn't.
Were any of those people that lived in the village with you who were joining up with them?
I don't believe there were over 4 families at the most join up. I don't remember the names of nothing like that. I just don't remember. I tried to find out today what some of the names was, and they told me some of the names that was in the 1940s. That was they were striking in the 1940. But I don't believe in 1940. I wasn't here at the time. I didn't work there when they strike in the 40s. But they said it didn't get nothing like it did in the early 30s. They did not unionize the mill, and they made several attempts that year to do it. They made lots of threats. Lots of people got hurt on both sides.
Friends, family of yours?
No family. No, I didn't have any family. My daddy was working to help protect it. And my uncles, I had 2 uncles and 2 cousins, several cousins, and my brothers. They were protecting the job, but nobody didn't get hurt in my family. And I don't remember if anybody got real serious hurt or not, but I know that some of the ones that had come in on the village and had threatened to do damage, I do know that they got hurt. How they got hurt, I do not know. But I remember being taken to the Macon Hospital. But how they got hurt, I couldn't remember. But I don't about what I remember of the accident in the strike of 1940. Now
It was 34, I think.
34 when it happened. I was just out playing most of the time, but I do remember the meeting place down here. I remember the tear gas. I remember us putting the handkerchief in water and holding it over our mouths as kids and running behind the sheriffs and seeing what they were doing. And natural kids can do this where a grown-up couldn't. And but that one, Mr. Dewboat, I believe he worked with it. I believe he was more accurate in it than anyone I know of. He was a little bit older, and I believe he was a policeman. I don't know for sure.
I know, he said later on he said he was chief of police.
He was chief of police in the 30s. What year, I don't remember.
36.
And but I think 1 or 2 of the strikers were locked up. We had what they call the jail, and it was just a little bit wider than that fireplace, a little bit it was more on the square, and they had a bed in there, and anybody come in on the village and done harm, they was locked up, and they were put in jail. They had a city mayor, they had a hall, councilmen, and everything just like the city of Macon. We still got it. I don't know who.
In Payne City, right?
It's Payne City. This is a city within a city. This Payne City is surrounded by Macon, Macon City, and Macon and Payne City are in Bibb County. So they were both protected then under the Bibb County Sheriff because it was not in the city of Benton. It was not in the city of Macon, but it was in the county. So the county sheriff had the say-so of any surrounding anything that happened that wasn't connected to the mill. And the policemen of the mill took care of anything that happened inside the village or anything happened inside the mill. But then if it anything else, the sheriff department would call in. If any arrests were made, come on in, babe.
I'm the lady you were talking to on the telephone, remember?
At my great-granddaughter.
What's your name?
Cynthia.
That's right. And you live in Texas.
San Antonio.
San Antonio.
And she eating ice cream. You better go and put it in the ice box if you don't want it melt.
I already did.
Oh, you did?
It looks like, how big is that?
I don't know.
She just bought it off a truck just before you come. And I don't remember anybody getting serious hurt in it, no. But it was angry. It was very much angry in our family with the people that my father knew. Naturally, you know that they were angry for a long time. You just don't do anything like this and forget it the next day. So I'm sure anger held on for a long time. But I worked 4.5 years at Payne's. Hardest work I ever done in my life.
Wait, when did you start working there?
It's somewhere around 34, 35, maybe late 30.
When you were about 15?
About 16. And
what did you go in as?
I went in as a regular worker running cards, what they call card hand. And then I was promoted to second line supervisor.
So quickly?
About 8 months, but I work in the morning to learn the job, to do and help my job that even. And then when the job come available, well, then I took over.
So you were training for
I was
8 months.
I was training 4 hours in the morning for a job that come open later.
Did you get paid for the training?
Oh yes, no, not for the training we didn't, but we did for the regular job. And my wife and I, we married in '37. And I think I had just made foreman when we got married. Assistant foreman, that's kind of a grade foreman. And it paid $4 a week more than the regular work did.
Now some people work there for years without getting that kind of promotion.
Oh yes, I agree with you. Some maybe had spent their lifetime there and never did get it. But if you were young and had a pretty fair of education and were willing to learn, and someone had the job would come available. See, many people didn't quit jobs until after Roosevelt went in, because during the Depression it was hard to get a job anywhere, and you just didn't up and quit a job just because you thought it was a little bit too hard. But just like I say, we had an honest living. We wasn't on welfare. We didn't accept gifts from nobody. My daddy wouldn't accept anything that give to him because he was too proud of a guy to accept gifts that he couldn't give back. In other words, we didn't have welfare. We didn't want welfare. And we didn't need welfare neither because he was making an honest living. And we had never did go hungry, never did a lack of anything I know of, except maybe we didn't travel like we do now. We didn't go on vacation like we do now. We didn't eat the food we do now, but still we got by.
So you only worked there for 4 years?
4.5.
Why did you leave?
I went into service. Well, I left there and went into a service station business, and then I went in the service. I left I guess to advantage myself, I went to open up a service station of my own, went into bidding, and I was within a quarter of a mile of the mill village, and 90% of my bidding was the mill village people from Paynes, Manchester, and Willingham, and I had done bidding with some of the Georgia Power people that would what we call live on the other side of the road that made a little bit more money than we did, I imagine.
Is that what you
At
call
that
them?
particular time, they were $25 a week people, where we were just $15 to $20 a week. But I trusted people more so than I did ours. I mean, trust our people more than I did them, because most of it's cotton mill people, you won't call them that, was honest, hard workers. They did not believe in, and they still don't believe, most of the people you talk to today that are reared up in the mill or around like that, you can bet your bottom dollar if they shake your hand and say, I'll pay you next week, you get your money next week. You know, I just felt like, and most of my money I made in service station bidding came from the workers and friends that had knew me. And then I went in service in 42 and stayed 4.5 years in the service, and then went out to Warner Robin and worked 38.5 years and stayed in National Guard of the rest of some of the time. So.
You were in the National Guard?
Mm-hmm. I was in the National Guard here in Macon.
Now, did they? In '34, they sent the National. Talmadge sent the National Guard in, didn't he?
Down here to this track, not to my knowledge. Now he could have. I won't say it, but to my knowledge, I don't remember.
So.
I don't remember the National Guard coming into Payne City. Now they might have come into Macon, but if they come into Payne City, I don't remember. I do remember seeing they didn't have either 4 or 6 county sheriffs at that time. Best I can remember, they didn't have over 10 at the most. And my father knew most of them by the first name. My uncle Noah knew them because they worked with them, because they were policemen. And they were all good friends, but the sheriff department kept a sheriff line out here all the time to help out in case something arrived. But the men of the village protect their own selves. They protect the family. They didn't have to call too much help. And if a National Guard or anything reserve come in to Macon, I do not remember it.
Did I saw some movie footage, a lot of what you described, and I saw, I guess it was either the chief of the police or the sheriff, and
the sheriff department was, but the city of Macon.
Okay.
The city of Macon never did come in.
Okay.
The city of Macon didn't have no more to do with us, and I got to go down there and tell Chief Brooks what to do today. In other words, we had our own fire department, we had our own chief of police, and we had our own mayor. And if anything got out of hand where it had to go to the county sheriff, if anybody done a crime big enough to go to the county, then he was sent to the county instead of the city. I think the only thing they ever locked up in that little jail we had was the drunks and someone that was trying to cause trouble. But I don't remember the National Guard being called in on this deal. It could have been. Yeah, like I say, I just don't remember.
So, when did you actually see the sheriff deputizing people?
Oh, yeah, I saw the sheriff. He had deputized quite a few people from Payne City before we ever went down here to this raid that we had down here in the park. I guess this and the one at night at 12 o'clock were two worse than I had seen. Now, they had helped a bunch of them, what they could. The main leaders, the men at Payne City, helped them till the sheriff come out and got them and locked them up. The one that tried to turn over Mr. Brown's car and do destructive work like that. They held until the sheriff got there. But the sheriff were working direct with the people because they were in on the property of Bill Mills. In other words, when you step off the, well, they were on the property of Bill Mills down here when they were down here. This owned by Bill Mills too, but it don't now because they had give it to Payne City, to Macon City, and but at that time, all that down in there was owned by Bill Manufacturing Company, and I don't know anything that real serious got out of hand that night, but I know we kept somebody out walking with place to keep anything from happening. If they hadn't been wise enough to keep people out to keep this down, it could have been somebody hurt, yes. But I don't remember anybody getting hurt serious.
Do you recall seeing the strikers out on line with pickets, with signs and, the picketers?
Oh, yeah, I remember that, but they had everything. Some of them even have guns, just like they do today in Greyhound track and Eastern Airline track. How much worse could they get then than they can now?
You mean the people that were online who were striking? They had guns?
Most of them had to take guns off several. Now, how many they had, I don't remember, but they had locked several up that had guns, and they had sticks. They would you couldn't get close to them because my daddy and them they held a line, and he never did get hurt. But some of the men that were doing the garden to help get them people into the village, into the mill to work, naturally they got hit once or twice by the strikers, and they came out in angry, just like I said. They were angry. And the one that were trying to protect the mill were angry. You take too much of angry people, somebody gonna get hurt. I don't care if it was 1930 or 1940 or when. You just take too much of people that are angry, they gonna get hurt. Somebody gonna get hurt, and that's the way it was. No way in the world you could say that somebody didn't get hurt. I don't remember exactly who, but I'm sure that somebody back along then did get hurt. And my people were treated real nice at Payne City. They wasn't treated any better than anybody else, I don't reckon. But we had boys club, we had men club, we had ladies club, we had Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, and they had people that take care of it. We had a doctor furnished by the Bill Manufacturing Company, had nurses stayed on duty for 24 hours a day, had a social worker stay on duty 24 hours a day, so what else would you want? They had any kind of games you wanted to play. They had, best I can remember, it wasn't but one telephone on the village, but anyone that wanted to go and it were out on the front porch, you could go to that porch and use that phone anytime you want to.
Which part of the building was that on?
You mean the telephone?
Yeah.
It was at the nurse's home where the nurse and the social worker, live in a 6-room house, which is a very large house. And then the one next to it was used for the doctor office and the nurse headquarters. Social worker had her office in there, and different people had an office in it. Well, two big 6-room houses that were used for this particular type work. And the social worker, they kept something going at the auditorium lots of time. They had theaters at night for people. They had singers or groups of singers come out and sing for us and pay a dime or 15 or 20 cents or whatever they charge. And it was just a very nice place to be at that particular time because you couldn't get out and do nothing else. I'd got part-time job, maybe working delivering ice for different people in the village. Enough money to go show on. So we wasn't hurting. We went to the theater. Show.
This was all in the village.
No, we went downtown to the theater. Now they had a place on the village for a theater, but it just showed once a week or once a month whenever they got a picture in. But we could have people come out, like the Stamps Quartet, different organizations like that used to come out and put a show on out there every few weeks.
Now,
Had something going on almost all the time.
was there time to go and do all this? I imagine you were working a lot.
Well, we worked 8 hours a day. I did at that particular time, and I was more interested in dating young girls than I was. I wasn't worrying about nothing. They had different parties. Well, I belonged to the Boy Scouts. I belonged to the Boys, what they call the Boy Scouts. And my daddy, he was a member of back then, they had a ruling that everybody that lived on the village, that worked in the mill, would have to go to church on Sunday. That was one of the main thing that they had.
Who made sure that happened?
Superintendent of a mill. He was a superintendent. He was a boss, and he set his rules. They had the school teachers. And they had Sunday school and church over there in the place that's torn down now, but they had a.
Which church was it?
It was no name. Bellevue Baptist Church over here kind of sponsored some of the teachers to go over there, and some of the people on Payne City that went to Bellevue Church, but people could go to any church they want to, but.
So they didn't have to go to the Mill Village Church, and they didn't have to go to the Payne City Church.
They have to go to Payne City Church on once a week, but then they could go anywhere else they want to anytime. But once a week they would have to go there.
Could everybody fit into that church at one time?
Oh yeah, they hold 600 people.
And how many people lived in the village at one
I
time?
imagine around 125 to 175 people at the most, that counting kids and all.
That lived in the village
Uh-huh.
at one time.
That was counting everybody, but now I think someone told me there were about 125 houses over there. I don't know how many houses over there, but most of the houses back then in 30s and 32 and 34 were not filled. They were vacant because people wasn't as many people working over there then. And but everybody did go to church on Sunday morning. Or they would have a reason why they didn't.
Do you recall who the preacher was?
I don't remember who the preacher. My uncle was a song leader. That's about all I could tell you. He led singing every Sunday. He was a song leader, and I couldn't tell you who the preacher was. I think different ones come over and preach from Bellevue Baptist, and they would ask different ones, who was the preacher? I do not know, no. Mr. Dumo could tell you.
Did during church services, did they talk about work?
No, ma'am. No. When you walk out of that mill village, nobody never did mention work to you no more. You were on your own. You do what you want to. You wasn't no security guards around, and you could go and come any time you want to. Some people said that they would watch you. I don't remember anybody ever watching me. I come in when I want to, and I leave when I want to. I don't remember anybody ever eyeing me like they have. Some said, well, you couldn't do this and you couldn't do that. We could do about what we wanted to as long as it was right. Now, they did not want you to come in drunk. And but some of the men that work over there did drink, and they would be would be drinking on the weekend, but they would not come in on the job Monday morning drunk. No. You didn't have no alcohol or been saying, I'm sick, I can't come to work this morning because I'm an alcoholic.
Was there no liquor in the village? Was that prohibited?
Well, we didn't have no liquor stores, no. There's no stores over there whatsoever. Anything you buy, you have to buy it off the village. Now, you could buy, we had what they call a lunch wagon and go through the mill at 10 o'clock in the morning and 2 o'clock in the evening. You could buy sandwiches and Coca-Colas and cigarettes and stuff like that, but no alcohol was sold back then because it just hadn't been passed back then to be sold.
Going back to the churches, I've seen some pictures. I saw one at the Columbus Museum. Have you ever been there? There's a beautiful museum in Columbus.
I think I've been there, yes.
They
Been a long
have
time.
one section that's textiles, and there's this picture of all these people being baptized in the mill. There's like a pool in the mill.
No, I don't remember that. I don't remember anyone being baptized. If they were baptized over there, they were taken over to Bellevue Baptist Church. I'm sure of that.
I was just wondering.
No, I don't remember that. Just like I say, it was just a ordinary life. We were raised up on it, and we didn't fight it. We didn't say, he can't tell me not to do that. I'm freedom of speech. I'm going to do what I want to. They didn't have that back then. Nobody didn't go out raiding sand trying to fight somebody on every little issue that come up. We just knew not to go out and try to burn the American flag. They didn't do that.
Um, on the phone, you talk. Well, tell me. Most people came from had a common heritage, didn't they?
Well, most of the people are just ordinary people. That my father, he was working at a very high-paid job in Tennessee when a big flood came and washed everything that he would work at away, and he'd have to either go up north to stay with a company, or he'd just come down here. My cousin had offered him a job over here, which about that time the thing would begin to get slack. And he came down here and went to work and raised a family down here. But most of the people were just ordinary, hard-working people. They were just someone that didn't want to, they were proud people. Most of them were proud people that believe in working and letting other people work if they want to. And that the reason I said I would, at that particular time, I wasn't farther track because I didn't know enough about it, what it would do and what it wouldn't do. But I had seen enough then to get hurt that I was allergic to it for a long time. It made me think twice before I ever become a member of a union, because the way they done back then, they still do it today. And they try to force people that don't want to be subject to join a union. They want to force them to join you. In other words, you do it my way or you don't do it. And I just never have believed in forcing anyone to do anything.
Did you watch people's personalities change when they went out on that picket line?
Did what now?
I mean, you knew they were friends of your family?
We didn't have but 4 or 5 people that I knew that were out on the picket
So they
line.
were all strangers?
They were most people that we didn't even know, that were from different parts of Macon and different parts of the country. It just like it was when Martin Luther King marched through Macon. Very few people of Macon went through with him. Most of them come from up north that marched with Martin Luther King, just like I didn't recognize anyone. And back then, most of the people that were on the track was people from out of town. Very few, maybe 5 families in all that that come out on the track back then. But after it was all over and they went back to work, they were forgiven of the same. People didn't hold a grudge against them. 2 years later, you couldn't even ask anybody who it was, and they couldn't tell you how, I don't imagine, because they didn't hold grudges. And I don't even remember some of the people today. I don't remember who they was. I couldn't no more tell you right now who there was that come out on the track, but I do know about 4 or 5 families, and I couldn't tell you the names. But it did not. My father might have held a grudge on it at that particular time because they had threatened his life or something. But most of the people that were locked up down here, this thing I'm telling you about, they were not any from this area. If they were just a very few. Maybe it's 1 or 2 or maybe 4 at the most. None of my kin folks took a part in it, no.
But they worked on the side. They were working for the company.
4 or 5 families was, yeah. My people,
Yeah, your people.
yeah, my people, my brothers and cousins and uncles, all, see, I had an uncle and he had 4 kids working, and my daddy had 3 boys working. And then we all, one of my brothers left shortly after that and never did come back to Georgia, but it wasn't on account of that. He just went to California and wanted to be a movie star and never did.
How did he do in that? Did he went to Los Angeles?
And now yeah, down below off lane, and then he got a job with a fire department out there and went working with a fire department. He died last year, but he never did come back home after he left and went out there.
He really wanted to be a movie star?
That's what he always said, but he never did. He met a few, I think. But
Now, was it expected of all the children in your family to go work in the mill?
no, my daddy didn't have no rules or set rules. He just, well, after I finished school, he just told me that I could do whatever I wanted to, and one day I went up and told one of the supervisors I wanted to go to work, and he said, come in Monday morning, and that was all to it. There wasn't no ifs and ands. Did your daddy agree? Did your daddy insist? Or nothing about it. We could do practically what we want to. I bought a car when I first went to work. My daddy signed for it, but I paid for it. And
That was in 36?
That was somewhere in the early 30s,
Now
yeah.
that must have been something, because I got the impression that most people who even been working there for years didn't have a car.
Oh, my daddy had a car all the time. Now, we owned a 1926 Dodge, and we owned a 1928 Whippet. You never heard of a Whippet,
No, I never
but we owned several cars. They had 10 Dodgers. I can show you a location where the Dodgers was. The cement is still down, but the Dodgers have been torn down.
Garages.
And they had 3 or 4 up on the village. There's one still remaining up on the village, where one of the supervisors live, and then one down there where Mr. Brown lived, and then where the superintendent lived. And but there were several people out on the village owned cars. I can name at least 8 or 10 people that I know of back then owned cars back in the 30s, 35, and my parents owned a car ever since I can remember. We had a car in the family ever since I've been big enough to do anything.
Hey, so you were from a more fortunate family than some.
No, I wouldn't say so. We were just ordinary family, and we worked out at the place. Daddy, he had a regular job, and he didn't have to worry about being laid off tomorrow. He worked 6 days a week.
How many hours a day?
I don't remember. I imagine somewhere around 8 or 10. I won't say for sure. And somewhere around 8 or 10 hours until President Roosevelt went in, and then it was cut to 40 hours a week. And
What did they think of Roosevelt in the village?
well, they thought that he'd done a pretty good job when he cut it to 40 hours. Naturally, some of them working 50 hours a day, and maybe 10 hours a day, 5 days a week. And he cut it to 40 hours a day. And I believe the minimum wage was 40 cents an hour. I believe it was 40 cents that they could, at least they could pay. And so they didn't raise me too much under the Roosevelt, because most of us were making around $12 to $14 a week. And we worked hard. It was hard work, but it was honest.
I've heard people use this word, lint head.
Well, the reason that lint head had come from, because if you work in there and didn't wear a hat, you would come out and you could comb your hair 2 days later and you would find lint in your head, because cotton was subtle to anything that's damp. and you get hot and sweaty, you could take a bath tonight and to comb your hair tomorrow, and you still would get. If I had hair then, I don't have hair now, but I had hair then, and I could comb my hair. But I always wore a thing over my head, and when I come out of a meal, I didn't have to worry about the lint that like some people claim today. And I'd rather be a lint head and be on welfare any day. And that making it real sharp. I'd rather be someone that worked for a little bit and have something given to me. And I'd never have believed in anything of giveaway probing. And I think it started back in the Roosevelt days when he started with the, I forgot what he called it, some kind of work.
WPA?
WPA or something like that. And then he started with CCCs and all. But they worked back then for it. They made me not work as hard as some of them did, but I never was on the WPA. I never was on the CCC. But we go back to my hometown up in Tennessee about once every 2 or 3 years where my people live, and it would take us anywhere from 15 to 20 hours to go up there, and about 15 to 20 hours to come back, and I can go down in 3.5 hours without any trouble.
They still live there? Your family?
350 miles from here to where my family's come from, and it would take us anywhere from 12 to 18 hours to go from here up there. You know.
Were they farmers there?
Were they what?
They're farmers?
No, they would just live up there in Tennessee. No, they wasn't farmers. They would just, he worked at where they make hoes and tools, you know, shovels and pitchforks. That was his job before we come to Georgia. He was an engineer for this manufactory where they make shovels and rakes and pitchforks and things. That's what he done. And lots of his people work for where they make plow points, shovels, plow points, and plow equipment. And then some of my people work at where they made the cook stoves, the Rangers, heaters, and stuff like that in Rockwood, Tennessee. No, we wasn't no farmers, but when we go back home, we would have to travel the old muddy roads and go across the old mountains, and which would take a long time. Now you just go under the mountain and go right on into Tennessee now.
My present.
What did you do? Let's see.
As a present for somebody.
And I don't know of anything else unless you got some question you want to ask.
Well, did your mom work in the mill?
No, my mom didn't work. It was my stepmama. My real mama died when I was 2 years old, and my daddy married again when I was about 4.5. And I had a stepmother. I didn't know what a real mama was, and my stepmother was just as good to me as she had been my real mama. She raised 4 boys for my daddy, and she never did have no kids. She stayed home and cooked, sewed, quilt, do whatever a housewife done back then.
But a lot of the families, both parents were working, right?
In some of the young generation, yes. Some of the young generation, both parents worked. And like my cousin, his wife worked all the time. They had 6 kids, I believe, and she worked all the time. She married when she was 16. I believe Mabel Parks worked when she was about 15. She worked all her life. But very few of the women that I knew that my wife, she worked a little bit in the office, and then she went over to number 1, work in the office over there, and then she followed me doing the service. I was in Texas doing the war for 2 years, and then I went overseas, and she followed me to Texas while I was in service.
So a lot of, I wonder, it must have been difficult for those people where both of them did work. How did they get who took care of their kids?
My mother's kept 1 or 2 kids at different times, not all the time. It wasn't no regular job, but she would keep 1 or 2
For other families.
Other family. But go on, and I'll be done this in a few minutes. Go on and play. Would you fix us a coat and bring me the little lady a Coke? Go and fix us a Coke. Would you believe she's 6.5?
She's pretty.
6.5 years old. She wants to learn everything about the clown.
Yeah?
But
You teaching her?
I'm teaching her, yeah. And she'll be here with me till next Thursday, and then she go home. She go home next Thursday. What part of the country you from?
New York.
I know that, but you a national from somewhere else or
My
what?
nationality, you mean?
Uh-huh.
Originally, my family's from Russia,
Uh-huh.
but they came here at the turn of the century.
I went to service with quite a few of New Yorkers, and me and my first sergeant went on or 2 from Georgia, and the rest of them from Texas, Chicago, and New York, and New Hampshire. And then we went overseas and joined a bunch from Hayes, Kansas. So I know how to get along with the New Yorkers. We went up there 2 years ago and spent a week up there.
Did you keep in touch with any of your Army buddies?
Yeah, my first sergeant and 1 or 2 of my old buddies, we see each other about every 2 or 3 years. My first sergeant, he called me every week or 2, and he was from Butler, Georgia, and I was from Macon, and we still stay in touch real close. And he was made the sergeant in 1942, being the youngest first sergeant ever in the Air Force.
Really? So you were in the Air Force?
Uh-huh.
So you could fly a plane?
What they call just work a vehicle that kept the plane going. And it was the Army Air Force then, different from the Air Force now. In other words, you were in the Army, but you were assigned to the Army Air Force.
On the telephone, you said Continental people are fine people. Some people look down on them. And you were talking about attitudes that different kinds of people have.
Oh yeah, people today will make catty remarks about the landhead, the old cotton mill people, but
You were telling me how you'd like me to look at these people.
you look at these people as being honest and sincere people. And you were asking me about the people that work in the mill and had kids. Most of them had ladies that come in, clean up the house, cook the dinner, and cook the meals 5 days a week. And when they come in from the mill at 3 o'clock, the dinner would be on the table, the house would be cleaned up, and the kids would be in school and everything. When my wife and I went to work, we had a lady came in at 8 o'clock, and she would clean the house. And
Is this in Payne City?
and she would cook our meals. And when we come home from work, we would have dinner on our table. She would clean the table, and she'd go home. Sometimes I take her home in the car. Sometimes she would walk. Sometimes my husband would take her home. He had a car at one time.
Did she live in Payne City too?
No, she lived over here in the colored section of town. She was a black lady, and she was a fine lady. She was very well thought of. All my in-laws thought lots of her because my wife had 7 brothers and sisters at that time, and they would come up and stay with us, and they thought she was great. And we didn't have any problem between the race back then, not like they do now. We had the best relationship in the world with them. They cook for us. I went one time to go to South Georgia, and I went by to pay the maid one Saturday morning, and she said, "Will you eat dinner with us?" And her husband was sitting down to eat dinner, and they gave me the table, and they were gonna get over at the another place to eat. And I said, "Come on, let's all sit at the table." Well, back then I didn't think nothing about it because she cooked for me. Why couldn't I sit down at the table and eat with her if I wanted to? But well, lots of people talk about that today. Oh, you wouldn't eat with black people. Well, I have done it. I have done it many times, and I have gone in from work and sit down and ate at the table after she cooked it, and her husband be sitting at the other end of the table. I wouldn't think a thing more about it. But people make a big fuss out of it today. You know what I'm saying? But we got along fine. We didn't have any trouble whatsoever. My daddy, he worked colored people. I worked colored people in the mill. Didn't
What
have
did they do? Same jobs as you?
They some of them did, and some of them didn't. Some of them done the janitor work, and some of them done the heavy card work, and some of them done the same thing. I don't know if many of them done running the frames or anything like that, but some of the black men done some heavy work, and they lifted bales of cotton and done stuff like that, which it took a good man to do.
Did they live in Payne City?
No,
too?
they didn't. No blacks ever live on Payne City.
And now?
No blacks. And it not because they just been there so long that I doubt if a black could find a house to move into. It'd be hard to. It'd be hard for me to find a house to move back in.
Would you like to live back there?
No, I wouldn't. Be frank with you, I don't like it here because it's not as crowded here as it was over there. The houses are very close together, and it's a very fine. What you? Oh no,
I think she wants to give me something. Is that right?
ain't no telling what she want to do. But if you want to go down and then come back Monday and finish talking to me, I'd be
Yeah.
glad
And
to.
you could show me around?
Yeah, I'd show you around if you like.
Yeah, that would be terrific. That would be
Let me get all this cord out.
Now, your cousin, you think, is she home?
I don't know. I call and see. We can stop by and